What happened to Philippe when he made his £160 million move from Liverpool to Barcelona in January 2018? Everyone expected him to be one of the world's best players. But this never happened. And now he's just another face at Aston Villa. So how did it all go wrong for the Brazilian star? Well, in this video, we'll take a look. Coutinho was always destined for greatness when he came through the ranks at Inter Milan. He showed incredible promise and was regarded as one of the most exciting young players in world football. And after making 37 appearances for the club, scoring 12 goals, he was snapped up by Liverpool for around £8.5 million. What followed was an impressive spell at Anfield. Over 5 years, he went on to make 200 appearances, netting 54 times. He was creative, he could score goals, and he was a true fan favorite. As such, it wasn't a surprise when Barcelona came calling. But why did they want him so badly? Well, in the build-up to that move, Barca had been linked with other stars such as Christian Pulisic and even Philippe's teammate Mohamed Salah. But it seems they had a long-term interest in the Brazil. This is because, during the 2013-14 season, Tito Villanova, who was Barcelona's manager at the time, tried to sign him. However, Brendan Rodgers hijacked the deal and brought him to Liverpool instead. 3 years later, though, and he would finally get his man. So why were Barcelona interested in the first place? Well, let's not forget, they have a history of signing players from Liverpool. You only have to think back to the days of Luis Suarez, and even more recently, the likes of Jorginho Wijnaldum and Ibrahim. They like to bring in South American talent and nurture it into world-class status. And Coutinho would have fit right into their plans. They wanted him to play alongside Lionel Messi, and they thought he was the perfect candidate to support the Argentine in attack. We know how important a creative midfielder is to the team. And with Andrés Iniesta nearing the twilight of his career, they needed someone to step up and replace him. Once again, they felt Coutinho was the answer. Finally, this was a player who was tailor-made for the camp, knew he wasn't afraid to take risks. He was brave in possession, and he knew where the goal was. And so, despite Liverpool's reluctance to sell, the two clubs eventually struck a deal. And on January 6, 2018, Coutinho arrived at the Camp Nou. Now, if there was ever a player who was going to thrive in Blaugrana, it really did seem like it was going to be him. His technical ability was clear for all to see, and he already had experience playing in the Premier League. He also knew what it took to be successful in the Champions League. He might not have lifted the trophy with Liverpool, but he played a key role in helping them reach the final. As such, there really wasn't much pressure on him when he first signed. And as the season wore on, it seemed like everything was going according to plan. He helped them lift the Copa del Rey, scoring twice in the semi-finals against Valencia. And he was unfortunate not to add a second trophy to his cabinet. That's because in the Champions League final, he came off the bench but couldn't help them overturn a 3-0 deficit against Roma. Still, it was a decent first season. However, things didn't quite work out as planned the following year. This was down to a number of factors. Not only did Coutinho fail to nail down a starting spot, but Barcelona suffered a poor start to the campaign. As such, Ernesto Valverde was sacked, and Quique Setien was brought in to replace him. Under the new boss, Coutinho made 21 appearances, scoring 4 times. But it was enough for Barcelona, and they opted to cash in on him during the summer transfer window. So what went wrong? Well, it's difficult to say. After all, he was coming off the back of a decent debut season. But it really seems like he fell out of favor under Setien. He wasn't used as regularly as he would have liked. And when you're not playing week in, week out, it's very difficult to showcase your talents. Some fans argued that Barcelona signed him simply because he was a good fit for the team, while others claimed his style of play was too similar to Messi's, and as such, he was always going to struggle. Either way, he was deemed surplus to requirements and sent on loan to Bayern Munich. It looked like this could be a great move. After all, Bayern are one of the most successful clubs in Europe, and under Hansi Flick, they went on to dominate German football. In fact, they completed the domestic double and lifted the Champions League trophy. Unfortunately for Coutinho, though, he was largely a bit-part player and only scored once. It was an important goal, though. It came in the quarterfinals against his former club, knocking them out of the competition. When his loan deal expired, Barcelona decided to cut their losses and sold him to Aston Villa for a reported fee of £20 million. Now, some people might have seen this as a step down, but for Coutinho, this was exactly what he needed. He joined a club who were fighting for European football, and while he didn't help them secure a place in the Europa League, he did manage to find some form. The following season, though Dean Smith's side were relegated, and it looked like it was the end of the road for Coutinho. However, Steven Gerrard was appointed as the club's new manager, and he immediately got to work trying to get them promoted. Coutinho was key in helping them achieve this, and he was rewarded with a place in the PFA Championship Team of the Year. While he's now playing Premier League football once again, it really does seem like he's just another face at the club. And this is the sad reality of his situation. If he'd stayed at Liverpool, he might have gone on to become a club legend. Instead, he is remembered as one of their all-time greats who left the club and never truly fulfilled his potential. Now, you can argue that he won plenty of trophies during his time at Barcelona, and that he experienced success at Bayern Munich. But he was merely a squad player, and he didn't do enough to cement himself as a true world-class star. These days, he's just another player at Aston Villa, and they've got plenty of other attacking options. He's fallen down the pecking order, and he's only making a bit part appearances. With that said, he still has a lot to offer. And if he were to leave the club, he could definitely play a part in helping another team challenge for European football. So what went wrong? Well, it's difficult to put your finger on one thing. He had a decent start to life at Barcelona, but he never really kicked on. On top of this, he probably should have stayed at Liverpool. They were willing to sell him in 2017. But then he suffered a serious knee injury, and this hampered his progress. This led to his form dipping, and ultimately he ended up leaving the club the following year. He may have been able to rebuild his reputation at Anfield, but instead he's now just another face at Aston Villa. Some people might say he's not the same player he once was, but he's only 31 years old and he's still capable of producing moments of magic. It really does seem like he was a victim of circumstance, though. He moved to Barcelona at the peak of his powers, but he never really hit the heights. If he was at any other club, he'd likely be regarded as one of the best in the world. But when you play alongside Lionel Messi, it's very difficult to do this. In truth, his move to Barcelona was always going to be a risk, and unfortunately, it didn't pay off. Regardless of what people might say about his performances over the past few seasons, there's no denying he had a decent career. He won the Champions League, he won La Liga, and he also helped Liverpool reach the Champions League final. There aren't many players who can boast about winning these trophies, and as such, he really shouldn't be criticized for failing to live up to expectations. What's for sure is that Barcelona made a big mistake selling him. Liverpool should have held on to him, and they could have challenged for more honors if he was in the team, but sadly for him, his relationship with the club's fans soured after he forced a move away, and he has never really recovered from this. So, there it is. That is the story of Philippe Coutinho and what happened after he left Liverpool. Let me tell you, I spent hours researching this video and it's safe to say he really was a victim of circumstance. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching.